if Peter walked on water, if Jesus walked on water, if Jesus walked through a wall, what does all that mean?
Yeah.
Somebody was defying the laws of of gravity and science, and or changing the molecular structure so that Jesus could pass through the wall. We have the authority in this realm, and we need to take hold of it.
You get a lot of pushback from the Christian world. Why do you think that is?
A lot of Christians just don't understand, and they're like, what is that woo-woo stuff you're doing? It's, they think it's mystical, but it's not.
Welcome to imbalances, where we leave a legacy of hope through conversations that uplift, educate, and inspire. Listen to incredible stories of people who overcame challenges and barriers, celebrate victories, learn from setbacks, and push forward together.
And you would hear all this torture, and then they would shoot.
Want to be empowered? Let's go. Subscribe for more and get this book now.
Hello and welcome to imbalances. My name is Lorna Grayling, and today in studio we are sitting with Margaret Orenzak from Balancing Force. So Balancing Force, tell us, what is that and how did it come about?
Energy balancing for health.
Okay.
So we are created naturally balanced and healthy, designed in God's image, able to heal ourselves.
Yeah.
The things that we experience through our lifetime, stresses, trauma, sickness, emotional things, cause us to be imbalanced and sort of clog up the works.
Okay.
Our body is made of roadways or rivers of energy pathways. When something gets stuck, when there's a traffic jam in that roadway, energy doesn't flow the way that it needs to communicate with our different body systems. We are super intricate in our creation, and everything needs to communicate with one another and be in balance for everything to flow and for our body to be healthy the way that it was designed to be.
Amen.
So,
I love that. Yeah. So being in balance, right? That means you'll have optimal health. Am I correct? So you'll feel energetic, you will, not be susceptible necessarily to all kinds of small little illnesses and things like that. But what other reasons are there for people would want to come and see you and say, okay, I'm feeling like this and this and this. I've done all these kind of things. It's not working. When would it be a good time for them to say, all right, let me, go and see Peggy?
Absolutely. People come to see me just because they want more for their health.
Okay.
Don't want just standard medical treatment. They want to be healthier, happier, feel more energy. They want their his highest and their best in what they can achieve. And but sometimes people are sick, or they have something going on in their body and they've been to numerous doctors and had numerous tests that either come back without result or nothing, indicating a pathway to move forward so that they can restore their health. And so there are different reasons for someone to come to see me. Also, if they're just emotionally stuck.
Okay.
If they're battling with something in their path forward, or if they have a trauma in their life that's holding them back and they feel like they just keep automatically going back to that stuck place or re-experiencing those emotions, then we have a path to release that.
I heard that, when you have emotions that are stuck in your body, that it can actually cause physical illness, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. It's like a ball of negative energy that impedes those pathways that I was talking about earlier. So proper communication to the different organs can't happen, and They do get stuck. So with an emotion, I do something called emotion code, which uses muscle testing. I can also use bioenergetic testing machine to indicate what emotions are stuck, what emotions someone has trapped. And in that, when we deal with emotion that is overwhelming, too much so that we don't want to subconsciously handle it at the time, we stuff it. It's called emotional, but a lot of people understand that as emotional baggage. We just kind of push it down and don't let it flow through the process of fully experiencing it at that time, because it's just too much. And so
you don't want to deal with it, right? It's too painful.
Right. So emotion code is a process that helps us to determine which emotion it is that's stuck and any more details that our body may need in order to be willing to let it go. Sometimes that is the age of occurrence or an event that it happened during, or someone it was shared with. There are many different variables in that. Once we determine what emotion it is and that we don't need any further information in order to release it, then we simply release it by swiping over the governing meridian and letting it go. It can take a little time for it to process out, usually within 24 hours. But
wow. So this is apart from actually talking through an emotion. Like, this is the physical body being able to release emotions that got stuck somewhere. Right?
Energetically, right.
And so what would that do for someone when these emotions are released? How does that help them or affect them?
So most of the time, people, as far as what they feel, most of the time they feel the release. They feel a little bit lighter. Sometimes they feel a little bit sleepy.
Oh, cool.
And they're able to make a different choice. So when an emotion is stuck, it can kind of be your automatic response would be to go to that same kind of emotional response to a situation. So once an emotion is released, then someone has more of the ability to make a different choice and move forward differently.
Oh my goodness. So if you have certain, what we would call personality traits, right? So for instance, you react a certain way regularly in a situation, and you don't want to react that way, but it's like you cannot help yourself, right? That is, am I understanding correctly, that could be because of some emotions that are stuck in your body, and your body just reacts certain ways. So you can't make that healthy choice, really, because your body is just
on autopilot.
On autopilot?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, but this is like super powerful, because I feel like a lot of people react certain ways from childhood, right? And they don't know why. And they don't want to, but they don't know how to change that.
Right. And it's a subconscious thing. Our conscious is a tiny percent of our intelligence. Our subconscious is a much larger percent, kind of like the tip of the iceberg and the iceberg. And so the subconscious gets trained within that autopilot responses, but so consciously we're making the decisions that our subconscious is telling us to make. We're just not realizing it.
We're not realizing it. Oh my goodness. So to come and get that understanding, get that release, and realize that you have a choice now.
Right.
I mean, that could change your whole path, right, forward. Help you make better choices.
Yes.
I love that. How did you get into this? Like, where did this all start from you? Because this is, I wouldn't say it's relatively new. You've been doing this for, a number of years now, but did you start out with this industry, or where did this come about?
I didn't. I actually read a book. Dr. Bradley Nelson wrote a book called The Emotion Code.
Okay.
And in reading that book, I realized that this is a potential great path for me. I always wanted to help people. I've always been drawn to help people, to build people up. And when I read the book and realized that this is a path that I could go down,
Yeah.
then that's what I did. So once I read through the book and realized this process is something that was feasible for me to do, then I enrolled in the course and took the course, which had a lot of practical and working with a lot of different people. And the more I worked with people, the more excited I became, because it was just felt like what I was made to do.
Yeah. What did you do before this?
Before this, I was in accounting, which,
No way.
which, I mean, I was always good at numbers in school, but it doesn't make my baby jump.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you understand that reference,
Yes.
but yeah, so this does.
So years of accounting, and now you're in this complete holistic healing environment.
Yes.
And how is the change? Like, how is this working?
Yeah, well, work is exciting instead of just something that you do to trade hours for dollars. But so it's exciting to be able to help people and to have them respond to me and come back to me with feedback of how things are changing for them. And it's just, yeah, I love it.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. I know that you're a beautiful child of God, right? So you actually started out, wanting to help people emotionally because it's like a calling for you, right? It's like a godly Christian calling. But I know that you do get a lot of pushback from the Christian world. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, a lot of Christians just don't understand, and they're like, what is that woo-woo stuff you're doing? It's, they think it's mystical, but it's not. I mean, we are energy. We were spoken into existence by the energy of words. Yeah. Everything in our system is so intricate, but it's all based on energy. There's the quantum realm prior to the cellular realm and the tissue realm and what we understand as our body. Yeah. We are energy, and a lot of times Christians think that it's crazy and it's scary and it's different, and they pull back from it. But I feel like Jesus did so many amazing things, and he said, greater things than these will you do because I go to the Father. And how do we know that this isn't one of those greater things?
Yeah. That he's giving us freedom from certain things.
Right.
Yeah, I love that. And I speak to so many people on a daily basis and that are stuck in certain things and they don't know how to get out of it. And especially Christian people, they're in the church, they're going to church, weekly, doing what they believe is necessary, but there are all these elements in their lives that are keeping them bound and stuck, and they don't know how to get out of it. There's no medical reason for, like you said, they go to the doctor, all these kind of things, but there's no reason why they would be this sick or have the symptoms or whatever. But now you're coming out and saying, but hey, there are actually ways. Come and see. Yes. And I have a really great document on my website where I went through spiritual and scientific perspectives. Started out with the quantum and the scientific, and then roll into some scripture references. Yes. If Peter walked on water, if Jesus walked on water, if Jesus walked through a wall, what does all that mean? Yes. Isn't it true?
It's just like somebody was defying the laws of of gravity and science, or changing the molecular structure so that Jesus could pass through the wall. So we have the authority in this realm, and we need to take hold of it and use the powers that we have, and tell the body to line up in its original design. And
I agree. I totally agree. Because that's what God wants for us. He wants healing. He wants victory in every aspect in our body and in our lives. He doesn't want us to be stuck, right? I know there's the scripture that says, my people will perish because of a lack of knowledge. Do you feel like you deal with a lot of that in your line of work?
To some degree. I mean, I feel like people do come looking for knowledge, looking for education, and that's a lot of what I do. I'm not claiming to heal anyone. I'm not claiming to cure anything, but to give them the knowledge to know how they can move forward, to help them to understand what their body might be needing or looking for, and empower them to move forward in a path of health, instead of just taking the Band-Aids and the medication and covering up the symptoms, because that's not what this is about.
Yeah, that's what we do a lot, though, is cover up symptoms. Right. And in the beginning, it might seem like a good idea because it works for a while. To cover up symptoms. Right. But there's no real value in that, because at some stage, if you just stick a Band-Aid on an open wound with not clearing it out, with nothing working and helping that wound to heal on the deeper levels, you will have a little bit of a plaster over it for a while, but at some stage, it's going to erupt and you might lose your whole arm because of it, right? I always think of it that way. That, you know, we need to get into the weeds a little bit. We need to clean out the wound, and that's painful.
Right.
In the natural.
Find the root of Find the root of the issue instead of dealing with the symptoms, because that's only temporary.
It's only temporary.
Right.
Yeah. And so basically you're just helping the body align, be in balance, release any unwanted emotions that is stuck, which we might not even be aware of where we got it. Because I know that some of it is inherited, right? So you might not even have gone through a circumstance, but you might have inherited something generationally. And that's why we always think, oh, but my granddad acted like that, my dad acted like that, so I act like that. It's like, you know, comes through, but you don't want to.
Right. And you don't have to. And you don't have to keep it if you come see me. Right. So
totally.
Yeah, we can definitely root out those kind of things, and none of this is invasive. It doesn't have to be, people don't have to talk about things they don't want to talk about. We only need as much information as the subconscious, the innate intelligence, the spirit, whatever term you want to use for it, needs in order to let it go. So
how does it work? So you come into your office, then, you know, how does it work?
So emotion code is, yes.
And there's two separate things that we're talking about here. So we got emotion code, and then we got the balancing.
The bioenergetic testing. So the bioenergetic testing can go through every system in the body and find imbalances with whatever, whether it's a system, whether it's a tissue, whether it's an organ. It's vast, really vast. And that one, we go through a gamut of tests. The first few tests are called the foundational scans to find the baseline of health, which things might be off on a causal basis, which things are out of balance. I try not to use the word imbalance because it's too much like imbalance. But what is out of balance on a causal root cause basis, and then we bring those things into balance, and then look for other issues that someone may be dealing with. So that is the bioenergetic testing. I can also use that to find some emotions that need to be released using emotion code. So they're two different processes, but all working toward the health and balance of the system.
Yeah. So to make that more practical, I mean, I can give my example when I came to experience your treatment, right? Is that I was holding two probes, right? And then everything is kind of connected to a computer. And so this computer system is now sensing through the body and seeing where anything is out of balance, there's energy changes or levels or something. Am I understanding that right?
Right. So
what was interesting to me is that it picked up something in my thyroid, right? And then it's true, because I actually went for blood test and my thyroid wasn't functioning properly. I am struggling to lose weight and all those kind of things. So it's pretty accurate of what it can pick up, right? But it wasn't only the thyroid was kind of out of balance. You picked up a whole lot of emotions and things that were stuck, and even generational things that we were able to release. And it was super interesting. And I was amazed, because I didn't really say much. I thought, well, I'll see how it goes.
Right. That's the fun. That is the neat part of the testing is you can go in there going, okay, my left ear is plugged up and I'm not going to say anything because I just want to know that this thing works. And then it'll come up with eustachian tube or something, and you're like, what? Or it'll tell you how you're feeling, or that you have an issue with your job or something. It kind of reads your mail. And it's fascinating, because you are just holding those 2 copper rods and it's sending electromagnetic signals through your system, checking in with each different body part and system, knowing what balance is. Perfect balance is 50 in the middle, 45 to 55 is within the balance range, and anything below that is weakened, and anything above that is stressed. So weakened is not enough energy going to that part of the system, and stressed is too much energy where your body's working really hard to compensate for something that's out of balance.
Yeah, and that's why we're constantly tired and anxious and stressed, because when your body is out of balance, it means it's wasting all kinds of energy to go to certain places that are struggling.
Our bodies are constantly changing all the time. And so if we did the same exact scan now and then 5 minutes later, we would get to some degree different results, because we're constantly changing and compensating. We're so incredibly, uniquely, beautifully designed to be able to do all that.
And you have different circumstances happen, right? So I'll come today, and then it will read a few things, then a week will go by. I would have different experiences in my life, different struggles, different things happening. So of course, like you said, the body needs to adapt to them. So how regularly would you advise people to come for balancing, and how would that look like?
So as far as the bioenergetic testing goes on the whole body, we'd be about every 6 weeks on that. And with emotion code, it depends on how much someone is dealing with. They could come in once a week. They could come in every 2 weeks. It just depends on how much support they need. How we can have thousands of trapped emotions as we're older in our lives. Now, little kids can still have emotions, whether they're inherited or something that they picked up on their own, but not so many. But as adults, we can have thousands. So, and we usually look to release about 10 in a session.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay. So you really need...
It could take a little while.
Yeah. So it's a slow process that one would need to do over, I would say, a year or 2 or however long, and then have like maintenance, correct? If you're, that is amazing. So is there any specific area in the body where this would be able to be picked up? Like, say, for instance, in the brain or in the back, or how, is it that intricate? Like, if there, how does that work?
So with the bioenergetic testing, it can detect different areas that are misaligned. If someone were to have a vertebra that, for example, that was misaligned, it'll tell you which vertebra. So again, it's not diagnostic, but we could say you may benefit from seeing a chiropractor or having a massage. So we can also get to a point after we go through the basic foundational scans, we do something called the next test needed, where we actually ask your intelligence, what is the next test that you would, what's the next most important thing to you? What's the next test that you want? And the body actually gets to choose out of the tests that we have in the system.
So the body gets to choose?
So if someone were to have a pain, an ache, a pain, stiffness, something going on, we could use those symptoms to search for additional balancing items for the testing process. So in the end, we have balancing item information that gets put into a alcohol water solution, which homeopathic drops. So a bottle goes onto the test plate of the machine and it puts the information or the instructions to the body to come back into balance in that solution, and then the client can take the drops as the system says, however many per day, and continue on that journey to get back into balance.
That's amazing. And so, often a lot of times you might have a backache and it's really great to go and see a chiropractor, but it could also be that backache is related to a stuck emotion that you've had many years. Right. So you would need to release the emotions first, causing the pain and the injury in the body, and then still go and treat also the tissue and the external factors as well. So what have you been healed from, or how did this work for you in your life?
So the funny thing is, one of the first things that I was healed of was low back pain. So I used to have to get in the fetal position every time I sneezed, or it just because when you contract your abdominal muscles, it also contracts your low back muscles, and it pained me so bad that I would just automatically crouch down so that I could avoid that as much as possible.
Wow.
And so when I first realized that I could sneeze standing up, which sounds ridiculous. I can sneeze standing up. It sounds ridiculous, but that was my first wow moment.
And so did you have a lot of emotions released first and then balancing, all the things through the body with the medication? And it's not diet. Medication, but so what did they tell you to do? What did you have to change to be able to sneeze standing up?
So inflammation was a thing for me, so I changed a lot with my diet. That had a big impact on me. Also, testing. Early on in my emotion code journey, I was training to get my motorcycle also license. My brother had passed away, and he was big into motorcycles. Gosh, I didn't realize I was going to do that. And so I went to a course at Harley Davidson to get my motorcycle. And it was so hard to get myself to lean this 400, 500 pound bike the way you have to lean it to get it to turn and everything. It's so anti my culture, and I wanted to control it. And so I actually did emotion code on myself, and then I was able to pass the test. The first time I tried to pass the test, I didn't get it. But then I did emotion code and I made it. That was amazing.
And I mean, it doesn't take the sadness away, right? Because there's no snap of a button when you lose a loved one that now all of a sudden you can do emotion coding and you'll never think of that person again. Life is life. We have moments, right? And sadness and joy and things like that. But it will take the stuck emotion. And release that. Am I understanding correctly?
Yes.
That is amazing.
On a whole nother level, because muscle testing and the Quest machine are checking with the innate intelligence, someone doesn't have to be conscious in order for this to take place. So if there is a loved one who is at the point where they're not completely conscious, but we want to be able to clear something for them, there's a process for that.
That's amazing.
Which is amazing.
Because it works on energies
Yes.
and energy levels. It's
Right.
not, you don't literally have to be conscious.
Right.
Because the body's really
If a
speaking to
child
the
is
machine,
sleeping, or if someone is in hospice care and they're at that point where they're not, we could still help them.
So, Peggy, what is balance? Explain to me balance. What is that? What does that mean?
So much like where home is where you're comfortable, where you're at peace, where your needs are met, and similarly to how the Goldilocks and the Three Bears story goes.
Yeah.
The one thing was too hot, one was too cold, one was just right.
Yeah.
You know, one was too hard, one was too soft, one was just right. So everyone has their just right, balanced place.
Yeah.
And so that's where we are poised to heal ourselves, to be comfortable, to recover. And similar to a GPS, how it works, the bioenergetic testing works in that same way. Finds out where you are and then gives you the instructions to get to where home is, where you're balanced.
That is amazing. It sounds so simple, right? Yeah, yeah. I know you can work on animals, you can work on people who are unconscious or conscious or whatever. I mean, that's pretty amazing. It feels like the world is your oyster, right?
Right.
It's like endless what you can do with this machine. It's like your body's AI, artificial intelligence, and it will just tell, your body tells, so my body will tell you what it needs.
Right.
Right.
Yep. The system just keeps sending messages back and forth. If it finds this part of your body is out of balance, then it's going to keep sending messages like, will this will this bring you back into balance? So it'll send out different messages until it finds the part of information that will put you back into balance. And then at the end of a scanning session, we have a whole, what's called the hold tank, full of balancing items, balancing pieces of information to bring your body back into balance on all of the areas that it was found to be out of balance.
That is amazing. My goodness. So explain to me exactly how your body is answering all these questions. So if I'm holding a probe, right? Two probes actually, and now it's connected to a computer. And so my body needs to be in balance for it to function optimally, right? So how is it speaking to this computer? Is it the body speaking through the probes and it speaks back and answering and asking its own questions, or just elaborate on that a little bit more? How does that work?
So it's all frequencies and energy that's doing the communicating back and forth. So the system has tests inside of it that have questions in them, and the energy or the frequency of those questions goes to the body, and the body answers back energetically.
That is super interesting.
It's pretty crazy. When medicine works, it works on like attaching things to cells in a chemistry type of way. With bioenergetic testing, it's the electromagnetic energy information that's going back and forth to communicate with the body. So it's not really attaching something to the cell as much as it's telling the cells what they need to do so that they can work with the body and do what they do with harmony in a good communication.
I love that. It's just so much more natural rather than pushing chemicals in.
Right.
Because the more, and we all know this, the more you drink chemical medicine, the more issues it creates on a different level. Like we all know that. Like they'll on the ads on TV, they have a whole section there. This medication can cause this and this and this and this, like a whole long list.
Yeah.
Take it if you dare.
And you wonder, why was I taking that to begin with? Right.
And in your brain, you're thinking, none of that things will ever really be a problem. I really just want to take care of the symptom right now, right?
Right.
We want that instant gratification. So we're willing to cause the body so much harm just to have instant gratification right now.
Right.
That's crazy. And then we're actually causing a whole lot of other problems. But it's because we don't know, right? We don't have the information, but our bodies does.
Right.
And they can share that through this technology that you have.
Absolutely.
That's phenomenal. My goodness, wow.
Yeah, we can scan for food sensitivities, for environmental sensitivities. There's so many things out there that can throw us out of balance. And a lot of people don't even know the basics of what is good and what is healthy, and they only know what the doctor says or what the commercials say.
Yeah.
And they maybe don't pay attention to all that fine print.
Yeah.
That
And the doctors don't know. They've studied what they've studied chemically. This is what will do this. This is what will fix that symptom. This is how that works. This is how that works. And outside of that,
and they're funded.
That's what they're funded
by the pharmaceutical companies, right?
Which is pushing everything anyway, and it's crazy because, and I'll tell you this. I mean, my husband was diagnosed with cancer a few months ago, right? And we've been going through the cancer process, right? So you get the news. I mean, it's huge. You feel like, oh my gosh, like this is huge news because you see people around you die from cancer every single day. We've lost family members, multiple members, you know, from cancer. And so it's this fear-based diagnosis that you get, and your brain goes, oh my gosh, he's gonna die. What are we gonna do? So the first thing you want to do is like run to the doctor, right?
Right.
And we did all the testing and the medical things and whatnot. But we also decided that we're not gonna have fear. We're just gonna choose that whatever happens, we know that God will have the best. It will work out together. Together
He's going to work
good.
it all together.
He works everything together for good, always, no matter what it is. And if he dies, he's going to heaven. We'll be sad. We'll be devastated. But we know that even that will work together for good. And so we just decided we're not going to take on this fear road and hang on to fear and grab onto all kinds of crazy stuff. And I've been watching us from the side, and we've gone a whole holistic route as well as you know, seeing what the doctors are saying, and we'll have the two options, right? The one costs thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, and they send you from this doctor to that doctor to that testing, to that surgery. Yeah, that's the chemical, right? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, thousands of dollars. And okay, our insurance will pay some of it. Some of it we have co-pay. Some of it doesn't really pay. I mean, they tell you come, that, you know, you don't have to pay. And then when you get there, all of a sudden you'll get a bill of like $8,000, which the insurance didn't cover. And
Whoa.
So this is a whole journey, right? Whereas the holistic, I mean, it's amazing what we found out that you can do through natural healing, like diet, stay away from sugar.
Yes.
Not one doctor in the chemical route ever told him to stay away from sugar. Yeah. But on the holistic side, that's the first thing they tell you is stop all sugar, because sugar is what
feeds
grows
the cancer.
the cancer.
Right.
Right?
They use...
I mean, it's insane. So
they use sugar in their tests to find the cancer. The doctors will use the sugar in the nuclear test or whatever they do because the cancer is attracted to the sugar. So they will use it to identify it and see it in the scans, like but they don't tell you to stay away from it.
It's crazy. There's as if there's this chasm between the medical side, the pharmaceutical side of illness, and we've just been dealing with cancer, so I can only speak out of my own experience now. And then there's this holistic side, and this specific doctor that we're seeing, I mean, she has been able to heal thousands of people from cancer that they said that there's nothing they can do for them anymore. And even friends of mine that I know personally for years, that's, healed through her cancer and whatnot. So we're very excited about this route that we're taking, but I am just amazed at the total different advice that we're getting from the two separate sides. I mean, it's a whole different conversation that, we won't go into now. Maybe at a later stage, I'll get that doctor on the show. But I mean, it is just phenomenal what is available to help heal cancer, but it's not advocated. It's not paid by insurance. It's all cash.
Right.
But then the insurance is not cash. I mean, it's not paid for. I mean, they say it's paid for, and then you get all these bills afterwards
That's not right.
No. So they just stick you into the system because everybody's scared and running in fear, and it's a huge money-making machine. It's like someone gets cancer and the medical industry goes ka-ching.
Right.
Because, all the issues that's caused from all that chemicals, I mean, that will, be enough to fund years of treatment because it's just chemical poison that they push into the body.
Right, toxins. Toxins. And I'm so glad you're going the natural route. And that you can have the information on what to feed, what to eat. Because our body is made, every cell is transferred out. We change all of the cells in our body in like 7 years or something. Every 7 years we get a whole new body. And if we're not building it, if we're not feeding ourselves with good building blocks, then we end up with cancer, which is just messed up building blocks. It's a scary word, but it's really just cells that are off.
We all have that ability in us anyway. It's just whether the cells are communicating or not. They attack the healthy cells, they attack themselves, or they're healing themselves, right?
And replacing with, those good building blocks. Again, good fats, good proteins are the building blocks. And if we start out with messed up ones, because that's what the standard American diet may have, and all the stores want to sell us, you kind of get
scary world. Your goals for 2025. Where are you at? What do you want to reach through what you're doing?
I want to help more people. I'm not sure. There's a big part of me that wants to help in extreme situations. In hospice, in cancer situations, the things that have touched my heart. But then I love animals too. And there's a really cool path to help animals. So it's just, the world's my oyster, and trying to determine the path. I have to see where God's guiding me to which way to go with it, because
changing lives.
It's going to be amazing whichever way, but I just want to be following the right way.
Amen. Well, you are changing lives one person at a time, and changing generations, really.
Right.
Because if you can change one person's life, you can change an entire generation, right? That is amazing. Wow. Well, I feel educated. I feel like, we've been able to put this out there, and anybody who wants to come and see you, where would they reach you?
So if they go to my website, which is balancing-force.com. I have a booking link on there so they can book either a 15-minute free complimentary phone call session or video chat just to get to know me and what's going on, or they can just book a session. We can do it remote, or we can do it in person in my office in Rockledge.
That is super cool. Peggy, thank you so much for coming out and sharing this valuable information with us. We really appreciate you.
Thank you, Lorna. Appreciate you.
Well, that is it from me, Lorna Grayling and M-powerTV. I hope you feel a little bit more educated, and if you are stuck with something, or you feel like your body is out of balance in some form or way or of another, or you're just not feeling yourself and you need some extra sleep or care or energy or whatever it is, do check her out. Her details will be on the screen right now. Also, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our episodes. We really need your support. Please comment on the sessions or the episodes as you see them. If you have any advice, or if you like them, or if you don't like them, you can comment as well. That helps us also raising the algorithms. So yeah, until next week, goodbye.